My parents made me pay all bills since I was 13. What if your parents took control of every dollar you ever earned, every paycheck, every tip, every allowance, and used it for themselves? Would you stay silent? Or would you fight back? Because for me, I didn't realize I was being used until the day I saw what my own mother was buying with the cash I earned at 13. That was the day I stopped being their daughter and became their income source. And years later, that was the same day I made sure they finally paid. I grew up in a modest house in Cleveland, Ohio. Not rich, not poor, just the kind of family that struggled quietly but wanted everyone to think they were doing fine. My parents, Linda and Mark, had this obsession with appearances. They had to look successful for their friends, their church, their neighbors, even if everything inside our home was held together with duct tape and stress. But the strange thing was, they always looked better than they lived. My mom had new handbags. My dad had expensive sneakers. We had a huge TV. But our fridge was often half empty. The bills were always overdue, and money was always tight. That was the first contradiction of my childhood. We had things, but we had no stability. I just didn't know why. The first dollar I ever earned. I'll never forget the summer I turned 13. All my friends were getting their first part-time babysitting gigs or mowing lawns. I wanted to earn my own money too. Not for anything big, just to buy art supplies, cute shoes, normal teenage stuff. A neighbor hired me for a simple weekend job, feeding their dogs, watering plants, checking the mail. She paid me $40 for 2 days. When she handed me the money, I felt something I had never felt before. Independence. It was only $40, but it felt like $400 to me. I held the bills in my hand and actually smiled the whole walk home. I already knew what sketchbook I wanted to buy from Walmart. But the moment I stepped through the door, my mom saw the envelope in my hand. Her eyes lit up like she had been waiting her whole life for that moment. Money? I nodded, proud, excited, hopeful. She held out her hand. I hesitated, and that hesitation was enough for her to narrow her eyes and say, "Give it to me. You're too young to know what to do with money. I'll keep it safe." Safe. That word became a knife I didn't even see coming. After that day, my life changed. My parents realized something. A teenager could work. And if a teenager could work, she could bring money home. Within months, my dad had me waking up at 6 a.m. every Saturday to clean a family friend's garage for $25. My mom lined up babysitting gigs for me after school. During the holidays, they sent me to help an aunt wrap gifts for her small business. And every single dollar, went straight to them. At first, they used the same excuse. "We're saving it for you." But slowly, the truth began to peek through in their behavior. The shopping bags in their bedroom, my mom's weekly manicure appointments, my dad's sudden collection of sports jerseys. Where was my money going? Simple, into their lifestyle. Meanwhile, I wore the same sneakers for 3 years, the same faded jeans, the same broken backpack. But guess who always had brand new clothes for Sunday church? My parents. I was literally earning their image. The first crack in the perfect illusion. When I was 15, I asked my mom a simple question. "Hey, how much money do I have saved up now?" She didn't even blink. She just said, "We'll tell you when you're an adult." Something about that answer felt wrong. I didn't understand finances, but I understood evasiveness. My mother only spoke vaguely when she was hiding something. After that conversation, I started paying attention, looking for patterns, listening for inconsistencies. And the more I observed, the more I saw the truth. My parents were broke, deeply broke. And every time I earned money, it disappeared somewhere between the grocery bags and the Amazon packages. But they didn't slow down. If anything, they became bolder, demanding, entitled. My mother once told me, "Your job is to help the household. You eat here, don't you?" At 15, I wasn't a child anymore. I was a silent workforce. The job that broke me. When I turned 16, I got a real job, a genuine W-2 job, a cashier position at a local grocery chain. I was so excited. It was my first official paycheck, my first taste of adulthood, my first chance to save for college. But the moment I walked out of the store with that paycheck in my hand, my father grabbed it without even asking. He didn't say congrats, didn't say proud of you, just took it. He stuffed it into his wallet like it belonged to him. And maybe that was the moment, the exact moment, when resentment began to grow inside me like a living thing. Not because he took the money, but because he took the independence that came with it. The breaking point comes quietly. The financial abuse wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, daily, routine. And it became normal. But the breaking point, the moment that made everything snap, wasn't even about money directly. It was about a pair of shoes. By the time I was 17, my sneakers were literally falling apart. The sole had separated from the bottom, and I kept gluing it back together. My socks always got wet when it rained. I finally gathered the courage to ask for a new pair. Not expensive, $40 at Walmart. My parents said I was wasting money, ungrateful, selfish. My mom said, "You don't need new shoes. The ones you have are fine." But 2 days later, guess what I saw in her closet? A brand new designer handbag, $140, bought with the cash I earned from the grocery store shift. That was the day I realized I was never going to be anything more than a tool to them, a walking wallet, a source, a resource. And the love I thought they had for me, it wasn't unconditional, it was transactional. The college lie. At 18, I tried to go to college. Community college, nothing fancy, just something to start my life. I needed $425 for fees, $180 for textbooks, $60 for a bus pass, and a little money for basic supplies. I showed my parents the paperwork. I told them I had worked for years. I told them I wanted to use my savings. My mom didn't even look up from her phone. She said, "There is no savings. We used it." My dad added, "Stop acting like you're entitled to something. You live here. You owe us." I stared at them for a full 5 seconds, waiting, hoping, praying that they would say they were joking, but they weren't. They never were. I felt sick. My throat tightened. My ears rang. My view of them shattered all at once. 4 years of work, hundreds of hours, thousands of dollars, gone. Spent on hair appointments, takeout, gifts, clothes, random things I never touched. And that was the moment I realized something sharper than rage. They never planned for my future. They only planned to use me until I broke. The day I fought back, quietly. I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't argue. I simply shut down. I became quiet, cold, silent. But inside, something new was forming. A plan, a purpose, a refusal to spend one more year as their personal ATM. I secretly opened my first bank account. I told my boss to switch my pay to direct deposit. I bought a cheap burner phone to keep communications private. I hid my mail. I hid everything. And for the first time in my life, I kept my money. The first paycheck I chose to keep felt like oxygen after years of suffocation. The explosion. It took them 3 pay cycles to notice. 3. When the mailbox didn't bring a paycheck envelope, my dad got suspicious. When I didn't hand him cash, he got angry. When I didn't explain myself, he lost it. One Saturday morning, he stormed into my room, threw open my drawers, dumped my backpack on the floor, and screamed, "Where is your money? You owe us. You live under our roof." My mom burst in and joined the attack, saying, "You think you're some adult? Everything you have is because of us." And I did the boldest thing I had ever done. I stood up, looked them in the eye, and said, "No, everything you have is because of me." They froze, like they couldn't believe their asset was talking back. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like prey. I felt like a person. The move out they never saw coming. I spent the next month planning my exit. I saved every penny quietly. I worked extra hours. I hid cash in my locker at work. A coworker offered me a room in her aunt's basement for cheap. It wasn't glamorous, but it was freedom. On a Thursday morning, while my parents were both at work, I packed everything I had into 2 trash bags. Not suitcases. I couldn't afford those. Trash bags. And I walked out, closed the door, and didn't look back. The best part, the shame they earned. My parents tried everything. Calling, threatening, crying, guilt-tripping, posting on Facebook about how their daughter abandoned them, telling relatives I was ungrateful and disrespectful. But here's the thing. When you stop enabling people, their true personalities come out, and people noticed. Families started asking questions. Church members started whispering, why was their daughter working since 13? Why did she never have any clothes? Why did they always have new things while she didn't? Why did she suddenly leave? My parents weren't victims. They were exposed. The shame they deserved, the shame they earned, landed right on them. Not because I said anything, but because the truth always finds air. My life now. It's been 4 years since I left. I'm 22 now. I rent my own apartment. I pay my own bills. I have actual savings. Mine. Truly mine. I'm studying accounting. Because nothing motivates you to understand money like having it stolen from you for years. And guess what? I will never let anyone take advantage of my finances ever again. Not parents, not partners, not employers. No one. Let me ask you, if you were in my situation, would you have left earlier or confronted them differently? Comment below because I genuinely want to know how you see this. And if you want more deep, emotional, real money stories like this, hit that subscribe button because the next one is even crazier.